Hola amigos, bien o no, mis saludos desde Medellín. Hoy el tema es desacuerdo, o mejor, cómo hacer un forma de desacuerdo, pero sin un argumento conflicto. Ese es el tema de hoy. So, hello again from Medellín, another splendid evening here. We might miss the rain, so we should be okay for the video. The theme of the day is how to disagree politely, in the sense of how to disagree with someone, not necessarily change your mind, but not have that kind of conflict type argument with them, even if that's what they want. Because some people, let's face it, do rather like to stick to their opinion and are very upset if you don't believe them or take their side. So we could just say, look, John, what you're saying is just wrong, or you're an idiot, or something like that. But that clearly is going to take us back down the conflict path, because he's going to be very offended, and that's going to end that conversation very badly. Generally, in all these type of exchanges, really the first rule to remember is the person wants to be heard. So as long as we indicate, like, I'm listening to you, that takes a bit of the heat out of it. And then there are some nicer, polite phrases we can use to help indicate that we don't really want to have an argument. We're happy to hear what they've said, but we're of a different opinion, but we don't want to talk about that now. So here are some phrases we might use a little better. So this is a particularly good one. I hear what you're saying. John, I hear what you're saying. Because it's true, I'm listening to you. I hear what you're saying, John. Your opinion on this is, well, but I hear what you're saying. So you showed you listening. You could stop yourself being drawn into the argument if your opinion is being sought to bolster his opinion. Perhaps he's looking for allies in the argument. So maybe you don't want to be that ally. So you can say something like, well, I hear what you're saying, John, but that's a bit outside my experience. In other words, I don't know anything about that. I don't really have an opinion. That's a bit outside my experience. Now, you could just go ahead and tell him you don't agree. So, all right, there's a politer way to say that. So you could just go with, well, John, with respect, I don't agree. But of course, once you said that, he's probably going to want to know why. Why not? Why don't you agree? So with respect, John, I don't agree. So again, we can go back to, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, John. I just see things a little differently. I see things a little differently. Notice it's a small difference, not a big difference, even if it really is a big difference. So even if you're going with a point of view that's completely contrary to what he's saying, just minimize that and say something like, I hear what you're saying, John, but it's just that I see things a little differently. So again, we're trying to minimize that conflict. I see things a little differently. But again, we're going to try and soften this a little further by showing that we have empathy with his point of view, or at least the fact he has an opinion. John, I can see you feel strongly about this. Clearly he does. I can see you feel strongly about this. And then this is my favourite phrase for these type of ones, because this shows that you're asking politely not to continue this conversation. Perhaps we should agree to differ. Perhaps we should agree to differ. In other words, perhaps we should agree that we have a different, or a difference of opinion. Perhaps we should agree to differ on this. Now, that's about as far as you can take it in a polite way, to say, look, I really don't want to get involved in this conversation. I don't really need to continue this. If it goes beyond that, then we can just go back to, look, with respect, I just don't agree. I think you're wrong. But at the beginning, we have a nice way, hopefully, to calm this down a little bit. And if nothing else, it's a way for us to indicate politely to the other person that they might have crossed that line where they're turning into a very strong debate, something that you don't need to go that far with it. Just, relax, it's okay. Look, maybe you got upset, you didn't realise that, so this is your chance to exit calmly, John. You can just say, oh, okay, it's all right, don't worry. And let's talk about something else. So let's look at that again. So the first thing is to acknowledge what they're saying. So, John, look, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. We can try and excuse ourselves from the debate by not claiming any particular interest in this or no particular knowledge. That's a bit outside my experience. It's a bit outside my experience. I don't know anything about it. Okay, we can offer a respectful, look, with respect, John, I don't agree. But again, that might turn it back on again. So let's show that we're hearing him. John, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. It's just that I see things a little differently. And we're going to try to minimize that difference a little differently. I see things a little differently. Well, acknowledge that he has a passionate view about this. Look, John, I can see you feel strongly about this. I can see you feel strongly about this, but perhaps we should agree to differ. Perhaps we should agree to differ. Perhaps we should just stop here and admit that we have a very different point of view. Perhaps we should just agree to differ and then talk about something else. So there we go. There are a few different ways, hopefully would help you diffuse a disagreement. So it's not a question of you've done something wrong. It's more that the other person has a strong view on a topic that perhaps you don't share, and is trying to win you over to their point of view, and perhaps you don't want to have that conversation. So this is a nice way to let you out of those kind of roundabout conversations, which you probably can't win. So it gives you a polite way to exit from that without feeling that you've been beaten or anyone's lost the argument. It's not about that. So I hope you find this one useful. Déjame saber en los comentarios. But if you don't agree with me, if you don't agree with me on this, then indeed perhaps we should agree to differ. But let me know in the comments what you think. I hope you find it helpful. But for now, from Medellin, we'll say cheerio.